Sandy, Merry Christmas.
Amy, Merry Christmas the day after. How
The
was your
day
Christmas?
after.
We both have our Christmas
I
sweaters
know
on. Mine's a Sherpa.
we're looking festive. So what'd you do for Christmas?
I had visited my parents in Arizona because the last two podcasts I was there and had a little bit of work in Phoenix. So I got back on the 22nd, and even though it was quiet and it was just Garrett and my father-in-law Larry, Zeke the dog, and I was busy trying to catch up with everyone because I've been out of town, neighbors' gifts, all those kinds of stuff. So it was a sunny, mountainous, quiet, yet a lot of connection, a lot of FaceTiming and texts and things like that. So yeah, and reminiscing about Christmas past, how every
Oh
Christmas
yeah.
time up reminds me of what we were doing 2 years ago, a year ago, 8 years
Right.
ago. How about
Right.
you?
Right. We did a little bit of that too, because last year we were in Mexico. And so every time Feliz Navidad came on, I was like, do you guys remember? Like
What were
we
you
were in
doing?
Mexico last year for Christmas. It was nice. I had one of my kids couldn't make it, but one came from Kansas City, and then my two in Omaha were here. So it was just the five of us. But we had such a nice time. I'm really enjoying having adultish children. And I say ish because one's just 18, but it's just really fun. Like it's just they're fun. We played cards. We probably played 8 hours, maybe 10 hours of cards between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It was so fun.
We did a lot of movies, cooking, and the funny part with the cooking
Oh yeah.
was, how you get these vast plans, and Larry actually bought us some shrimp cocktail, and then I cut up, like, did a small charcuterie board,
Yeah.
and we
Oh,
were
we
going to
did
grill.
that too.
We had
That's
steak
funny.
and
Uh-huh.
vegetables ready, and nobody was hungry. And
Yeah.
because we ate so much of the snacks, nobody was hungry. And I got to tell you too, Amy, the funny thing is, it was nice having a laid back Christmas because not having to run and prepare food for. And I know this might sound shallow, but I used to have, preparing to go to 3 different parties, and what is I going to bring, and what was I going to bring as a gift, and a
Right.
lot of running around, right? A lot of
Yeah.
going to family and then having people over, because I would always have many holiday parties at my house. And it was just kind of nice to say, oh, we have time. Should we watch another movie? Let's put a puzzle together. What time do we
Uh-huh.
eat? No restraints, right? So it's all good.
Exactly. And you know what I noticed is my kids weren't distracted by other people, and we weren't distracted by other people. So we were actually spending time, just the five of us, which was really nice because usually when we have all the family, they go off and hang out with the cousins, and which is great too, but it was just a little bit different. It was
No
fun.
chaos this year, right?
Yeah. Okay, so our topic today.
Oh, nice, Amy. I like it.
I'm
I like
putting
it.
on
For
my
everyone
New
listening,
Year's
I will post
hat.
a picture. Amy, describe.
I'm putting on my New Year's hat. I went down and dug it out, and I have my little whistle too, but I'm not going to blow it. I'm just going to shake it for fun. Um, I don't know if I'll be able to wear this the whole time, but we are talking about goals and habits because as we leave Christmas, we're moving into the new year. And that's when a lot of people do New Year's resolutions. Do you do New Year's resolutions, Sandy?
Oh, no, because it kind of makes me feisty. I think you and I had talked about this, and whether we talked about it on the podcast or outside of it,
Yeah.
I always feel like all year, resolutions should happen all the time. And so I love the thought of a new year and thinking through what I've done, what I want to do, but I don't want to bind myself by only having resolutions at the beginning of the year. So I get a little bit bucky about it on saying ongoing resolutions throughout the year.
I hear you. Although when I agree, when New Year's comes, it is kind of a nice time to reflect and think about what you want the next year to look like. And I would say, I don't think 2020 looked the way I thought it was going to look. And I'm sure a lot of people would say the exact same thing. But it is kind of a moment. Whereas throughout the rest of the year, you have to do it intentionally. Like you have to like remind yourself to make a resolution or do something to change. So anyway, we're talking about goals and habits today and how to I don't know how to reach your goals and get better habits. One of the things that I found in my research, you know me, I'm always doing research. It shows that 50% of adults in the United States make New Year's resolutions. but fewer than 10% keep them for more than a few months.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually remember at the gym, they used to say March is when people actually started showing up. Like they would sell a ton of memberships in January,
That's
but
interesting.
people wouldn't show up until March. Which,
That's interesting. Okay.
yeah, I thought that was interesting too. And another thing that's interesting, so people, so maybe they kind of make the resolution, but then they don't really get motivated until in March. It's kind of going into summer. And so people are like in March, they're like, okay, I'm going to be wearing shorts and stuff. I should probably get to the gym.
Or I
Maybe.
had a friend that it was a big thing that he would not, he would make a resolution to work out. And I'm going to go on this big workout plan, but it had to start at the beginning of a month. And so he'd make this big plan, but he had this mental block that
Uh-huh.
he could only start this new routine at the beginning of a month. So if it was the middle of the month, and if something were to come up that he couldn't start at the beginning of the month, then it'd start at the beginning of the next month. So part of this makes me think, okay, I've signed up. Now I've got to get mentally prepared, or like The Biggest
Right.
Loser.
Yeah, yeah,
People
yeah.
have this date. And so there's something good about a date, I guess. But I guess I never would have thought you'd sign a membership. Maybe I'm too frugal for that, that if I'm
I
paying for it,
know.
I want to use it.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. So habits, let's talk about habits because I started reading and to help me with this Atomic Habits. Have you read that?
I've not. Tell me about
Okay. So one of my clients was telling me about it. And so I picked it up and I'm just going to say I've only read a little bit, but the gist of it is in the very beginning, he or she, James Clear, he talks about um, doing something just 1% better. He's like, if you think about an airplane and they just make a 1% adjustment, it could end up, if it's going across the United States, instead of ending up in New York City, it could end up in Washington, D.C., just that 1%. And
interesting.
so,
Okay.
so if you think about that with your habits, if you can just do a 1% better at something, then
Mhm.
you're going to be moving towards long-term better. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that so you're veering towards the better, even though you're just making that really tiny adjustment. Um, and he said it's easy, and this is just the beginning of the book, so I haven't dug too much into it, but it's easy to make that 1% adjustment versus saying, I'm gonna do 100% change in my life, and then we can only maintain it for, you know, 5 days, and then we're like, okay, I give up.
It's got to be achievable. And I think
Right.
sometimes your point makes a ton of sense because people will set these goals. Like, I want to, I'm going to look like, I don't know, tell me somebody thin that's a model right now.
Right. Yeah. I
Gosh,
don't know.
somebody, some thin
Yeah.
model that I don't know the name of. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
how about let's just go with Reese Witherspoon. She's not a model, but she's
Oh,
thin.
yeah, but she's adorable.
And
Yeah.
she's 5'1" and I'm not 5'1", but
Yeah,
I want to look like her. And so if I only lose 5 pounds, even though that is a really big thing, am I going to be disappointed because I thought I was going to look like Reese Witherspoon by the time I went to a New Year's Eve party? Is that because
yeah.
it's not the 1%? It's not celebrating the small victories on your way there. It's almost unattainable.
Right, right. And that 1%, it would be something that you would notice over time. So, because here's the other piece that he talked about just in the first chapter or two was imagine if you were doing 1% less. So, let's say you're not doing 1% better, you're doing 1% less. Over time, the same thing could happen. Like you're going to be in worse shape than what you were if you're not trying to do a little bit better. So you're going to have a decline no matter what you're doing. So being conscious of that 1% better, I don't know. I thought it was a novel concept, especially thinking about the 1% worse.
I'm going to go with the weight loss again. How many people, not nobody, most people don't just gain a bunch of weight overnight. It really is the 1%. All of a sudden they look, that's what happened to me. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, over 5 years, I have slowly put on 20 pounds.
right.
It happens a lot of times. It happens that way, that 1%. But what's interesting is when I was finally successful in taking that 20% off, it really was the 1%. Because I remember one day I had put on a shirt that when I wore it, I felt like the shirt was a little baggy on me. And I remembered some pictures taken of me a year and a half, no, before, let's just say 6 months, a year before. And I knew that I looked at the pictures and saw my handles and I was fat. And it was like, oh my gosh, look at how much weight I've lost in this. It was a long period of time, but it was small things. I walked the dog consistently. I walked the dog longer. I went to the gym one more time a week. I gave up, not
Right.
totally, but I gave up carbs, but I did small things.
Right.
There was no point where I'd be like, oh my gosh, it was really slow, but it was amazing when I looked at those before and after pictures, how
Right.
those little 1% added up. And I slowly took the weight back off.
Nice. That's awesome. And you probably didn't even notice, like, it wasn't painful doing 1% more. Like,
No,
it wasn't like you were suffering and torturing yourself
right,
to, lose weight or be
right.
healthier. It just, you were just being more intentional about things.
And I think back to our habits, it's adding things to your habits. We are creatures of habit and routine, and totally changing something up. All those things were little tweaks to my routine. Let's
Right.
make sure we walk the dog for an hour every day.
Okay. So as you were talking, and
Yes.
you're talking about walking more, I
Yes.
was trying to figure out the difference between, so a half an hour walk every day
Okay.
would give you almost 11,000 hours of walking
Really?
if you did a half an hour every day.
Yeah.
11,000 hours. So let's say 11,000 hours divided by 24. No, that's not right. That would be 458 days. Oh, it's 11,000 minutes. I'm sorry. 11,000 minutes. Oh my God. Wow. What did I do? Okay. Well, my math is not good this morning. So I'm on vacation. But anyway, you think about how much time you're giving, like, to do something like that. You can do the calculation. So somebody who told me that she was doing 5 minutes a day. She was just doing 5 minutes a day. And she figured out that she was giving, she gave up something that was 5 minutes a day. And she was getting back like a week or two of time.
I love that.
She gave up
Time
something.
is my word for 2021. I like that.
Ooh, is it time?
Yes, time is my word.
Oh.
My most precious asset, and I've got to be much stingier with it, which is back to habits and routines. Do
Right.
you ever think back to those few minutes, things that you do that become entrenched in your routine that are a time sucker, and then you never think, why am I doing this?
Right.
Can I be doing something else to fill this, right?
Yeah.
And back to that, I can't believe, I won't keep sticking on weight loss, but just like a small thing, I hate starving. I really do. I do not like to be hungry. It is not my favorite thing.
Right.
But a small thing like giving up watching the carbs, giving up the sugar, really watching and being intentional about what I ate made a huge change. Did it hit overnight? No, but it was small steps that made a big change in an ongoing fashion.
Right. And doing small things like having healthier things just available to grab and go versus the carb type foods.
Right.
Well, it's just that small thing that if you're grabbing celery versus cake, it'll make a huge difference.
Or water versus beer.
So do you track your habits? I started doing this thing.
On occasion, Amy, but I'd love some advice on this. I should probably do it more.
Well, I started doing this thing and it was just, I saw somebody doing a presentation and I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing. And so this is so low tech. I created a spreadsheet and it has actions that I need to do, but then it also has like my daily rhythm and my weekly rhythm so that I can check off like the things I want to make sure I'm doing every day. And it's just simple things. Like it's just like read the newspaper. I like to read the newspaper. I want to make sure I do it every day. Do some weights, some meditation, 30 minutes of walking or some sort of activity. But then I have like professional stuff, so I have my days blocked off that I need to do. And this is kind of my weekly rhythm. And it feels really good if I can check all that stuff off and get it done. Very low tech though. And I print it off every week. I fill in.
Great thing to look at it from two aspects. You bring up a great point, is you look at it from two aspects. What things do you want to have, and what things are taking up time that are not allowing you to do things that you run out of time to do? What are you missing? To
Right.
really take a step back, because once you get into habits and routines, it's really hard to break them, and time is a vital commodity that we have. But I like it that you look at it from both angles. Am I doing the things I want to do? And how am I spending my time on other things?
Right. What can you eliminate and what
What
can
can
you
you
add?
eliminate, or what can you bring down a little bit? What's
Mhm.
sucking up time? I mean, things like trips to the grocery store. For me, I have to go into town. And I found I was running into town, every day. And I'm like, that's really sucking up a lot of my time. If I planned out meals better, I could make 2 trips a week, right?
Right.
Or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
organize around what I can do during those times. Because it
Yeah.
is amazing how just, oh, I'm going to run to the store, but then you're running errands, and that's an everyday thing. And it's taking an hour and a half out of every day. And then to get
Right.
back into a rhythm again when you get back, it breaks up. There are things that break up a rhythm too.
Right. Yeah. And I noticed having the kids around the last few days, I was not even near my electronics. I had my phone and everything like in the other room. And I'd be like, oh, I want to get a picture. Where's my phone? It wasn't even near me. It was
You
like, I
know,
love this.
I've reflected when we talked about which podcast was it, Amy, where you talked about is it Social Distortion? What was the social media Netflix show about how they're tracking
Oh,
everything we do?
the
Uh,
social dilemma.
Social Dilemma. We talked about
Yeah.
social dilemma. And
Yes.
it really made me think about back to usage and time. And everybody can talk about a habit that we didn't have 10 years ago because it wasn't there and we still had Blackberries, are all the things we're spending our time on our phones doing. And
Mhm.
I've tried to be much more intentional, but not be really black and white about it. Okay. Meaning, I'm not
Mhm.
here to say, I'm not one of those people that says social media is terrible, it's horrible. But here's what I've changed and where I think I've developed good habits by being thoughtful. And thank you for that discussion. And then I did watch the show.
Yeah.
I use great example for me for social media is like Christmas. To me, I get to see everybody's Christmas cards and Christmas albums. I look through and look at the pictures, and oh my gosh, I can't believe some of these kids that are in high school or new
Right.
babies in the family. I love that. Quick notes back to family. I get to say, maybe I didn't send them a Christmas card back, but I can say a note. Maybe we can get off and exchange a few things on Messenger. But it's really exchanging family pictures, seeing albums, staying caught up. I used to think that with both Instagram and Facebook, it was like a timeline for me that I had to start where I left off. And I would find
Oh,
myself now
yes.
that
Yeah.
went away about 4 years ago when they
Right.
changed the
Yeah.
algorithm, but that's a time sucker and it's a habit because you feel like you have to go back and look at everything.
Yes.
I don't, Amy, if I don't touch it for 5 days, I don't touch it for 5 days. And
That's
again, I'm looking at pictures. I do not get my news from there in any shape or form. I don't even read anything that comes across in news because I see it as being fed to me. If something tweaks my interest in a headline, I might research it later and find my news in a credible source, but I really don't go to social media for news. I go for it for pictures. But the habit of not thinking that I constantly have to look at it, not pulling it out of my bill, using time when I'm in the grocery line of not looking at my phone, but looking around and making small talk or just standing in my thoughts has
yeah.
helped a ton. Using it for what it should be used for and not using it as a time filler. How about that?
Yeah, that's great. I caught myself, was it last night or was it this morning? I can't remember. I hadn't picked up my phone for a couple of days. I had posted something for our family and then I like walked away from it and didn't pick it up. And I got caught up like looking at everybody's post and
Right.
liking and commenting, and I was spending time. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I could spend the next couple of hours here. And I'm like, I
Yeah,
just gotta
there's
sit down. And I felt kind of bad because I'm like, I'm not gonna see everybody's post, but I'm just gonna walk away because I'm like,
it's never
it's not
ending.
going to. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, the good and the bad, but you have to know when to walk away and say, it's taking my time and I have other things to do. And I think we all profess it over and over again, but for electronics to have certain time periods for electronics and to put them away is a great habit to have and make it intentional and not just a time filler. Because I think if a lot of people track their time, they'd find if they really filled in all the blanks of their habits and what they're doing, uh, they're spending a lot of time looking at their electronics or trying
Oh,
to catch up.
yeah. I think, yeah.
That's
And
not really getting me
your
now
phone
too.
will tell you that too. Like you can look at your history and how long you've been on it and what you've been on. And I'm
Right.
always like, oh my gosh.
Group, group texts are tough, Amy, because those are kind of the new big thing, and I love to be included on them, but sometimes they never stop. And so, you're answering a text, and I think that's good to get away from it too, because if you come and you're like, oh my gosh, I have 40 texts, you can quickly go through it, and it might
Right.
take 2 minutes of your time versus the half an hour when all those were going on. Sometimes it's fun to be in the middle of that, but it can suck your time. You got to put your phone away.
Well, and the other thing is, if we are constantly answering our phones, this is a boundary of mine. Like I'm like, if I'm constantly answering my phone, someone texts and I'm like right there replying back, then we start to set up that expectation that we will always be replying right away. And so it's also helpful that people know that you don't keep your phone on you all the time,
Right.
because that does they know how to reach you if it's an emergency, but it's not, they don't expect think something's wrong if you're not responding right away. That's
Right.
the other thing, it's like, why aren't you texting? It's like,
Aren't you answering?
right, right. So do you have any goals for 2020 or 2021? Oh my gosh, we're going into 2021.
Oh, you know what? It's all around my word. My word for 2020 was launch because I wanted to, and we're going to be talking about pivoting here soon. I
Yeah.
wanted to make some clear pivot and make some changes. It was interesting because COVID forced me to pivot in another way too. But my big thing for 2021 really is saying no more and being very mindful on what I say yes to, because time is my most precious asset right now. How I spend it, who I spend it with, and yeah, I'm never going to, what I've learned is I've got a full toolbox of things that I can do. And I am always way busier than I want to be. And I need to say more. I need to say no more and be very deliberate and yes, because for me to keep my time sacred with people and on things I want to do and launching things I want to do, I've got to do more of that. So it's really being very deliberate in anything I say yes to. So kind of like your journal, what am I spending time, and that's time commitments that are usually a month, 2 months. And I give away my time too freely. How about that?
Yeah.
I take on projects too freely. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And I want to spend way more time with my parents. I want to spend time on some projects with my mom. I want to be able to have more free time to go skiing with my husband. So time and being deliberate on my yeses.
Yeah.
That's
That's
my
awesome.
2021.
That's good.
I'm not even going to wait till 2021. I'm going to work on it next week.
That's good. So so tell me about this word. Like, I know a lot of people do the word of the year, and have you been doing it for a while?
I haven't, but can I share something with you? I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed it because I wear I think it came across social media and I saw it and I thought, oh, I like that. I need a word. I had an aunt that had a word that she had brought up. So it's called myintent.com.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I had bought for my kids and they loved it. They told me their word. And then I found that it really it was very complementary to content and what I work on with my value work. and
Mhm.
with purpose, and to have a focus and that one word. It's kind of like your North Star of what it doesn't have to be for the whole year, right? It could be,
Right.
what is my North Star right now? You know, how do you say, you can narrow everything down. Here's my plan. Here's my values. Here's what I want to do. But having that singular focus. So I got to show you something. I actually have a workshop that's coming up, and as part of it is everybody's going to come down to their word. So when you ask me if I'm familiar with it, I have the whole
Oh,
kit.
yeah. Look
So
at you.
yeah, it has the little hammer and all of the bracelets. And I thought, I am going to, because I think everybody needs, back to, I'm going to use the phrase that they used, is your North Star, your guiding. And usually it's easy to say, back to your New Year's resolution, it's easy to say it goes with a year. But if you have a word that is what you need to focus on now, and you have a new word after that, there's nothing to say. I actually have 2 bracelets for last year. There's nothing to say you can't
You
add
can
another
change it.
one, right?
So I like that you're giving permission, because I'm just going to tell you, I tried to do a word one time. So we did words one time. I got my kids all bracelets.
You did?
uh,
Okay.
yeah, from my intent, and it was kind of cool, except for I the word lost its relevance after a bit for me. And
Right.
then so we probably did that a few years ago. I
Mhm.
know it wasn't last year. And so I haven't done words since then, because it's too much of a commitment. I'm like, I don't know if I can keep a word for a whole year.
Don't,
So I know. I
don't,
love that
because
you said I can change it, because
right.
now I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do a monthly word. I could
And I
do a
think you could
weekly
keep,
word.
like, back to, I keep, you can, I don't know if it's open behind me, but I like to keep little mementos and reminders. So when you have your word, heck, you could put it right here on your thing and get your new word. And they can come in different forms. You know, it can be a
Right,
necklace, it can be a keychain, but there's nothing the matter. It's with changing your word. It's your word for the time period, but it doesn't
right.
have to be for the year. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
sometimes it can be just for a short period, you know?
I love that. Oh my gosh. I am taking that with me for this year, and I'm going to come up with a word. I'll try to come up with a
But
word before next.
you don't have to commit forever. It's whatever you
I
need
know.
now, right?
Yeah. Right.
To get to
Right.
your
Right.
goals, and yeah, it's what you need today. And I like
Yeah.
to have
I
under
love
the
that.
back of their bag. Our mission is to be a catalyst for meaningful conversations and positive action. It doesn't mean you have to have meaningful it doesn't mean you have to have positive action just for that word for the full year, right?
Right. Right. It doesn't mean you have to have a lifelong commitment to that
Right.
one thing.
Exactly.
That's what, isn't that sad? I was like, yeah, I can't do a word. I can't commit to it. I feel better now. Okay, good. So that's one of the things about goals, though. I know a lot of people who do New Year's goals, or at, and through the research that I've been reading in the past, and I don't know where I've read this, but um, somebody introduced 90-day goals for me, because 90
Like
days, we can see the end of the 90 days, and it's not so far away. So if you're starting to, if you're in, so even like a word, like I would say, I might take a word for 90 days, and then I'm committed. It's a little bit of a commitment versus me saying 1 week. I'm only doing it for 1 week, but it gives me that 90 days of focusing my energies on maybe that one word or whatever goal it is. And then at the end of that, you can reassess and go on a different journey if you want, or continue.
I love the 90 days, because back to a year's a long time. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, when you're our age, it's like I want to, I want to get all these things done, and a year seems like an infinity. And but the other side is you don't want to pull yourself too short and too wear
Yeah.
yourself too thin, that you're trying to do too much, which is usually my problem. So
Yeah.
I like the 90 days. It's kind of like, what are the 3 things you're going to get done today? Trying to simplify in very
Yeah.
distinct points, 3 things to get done today. What do I need to do this week? What are my priority items? You know, back to, I think I told you an easy thing that I started doing is I have 2 lists. I have my list that goes on my little quote sheet that are, these are the things I have to get done today. And that's usually no more than 3. If it's a busy day, it's 4, but here are the things. And then I've got a list that's back here that has get the mail, I have to get the mail, but
Yeah.
maybe a few other things that I've been wanting to do, that long, maybe there's 10 things on that list and maybe filler time in between, but I might get only half of those things done. But then I don't feel so defeated that I didn't get the 13 things done, and I'm focusing on the 3 that need to be done. I actually have, and I probably will break this out again, but I like my little thought journals. They have these books. Have you ever heard of this? Can you see it? It's Define My Day.
Oh, yeah.
And they small steps, big results. And these are great. I just do the same thing outside of the notebook. And maybe I'll start this again the beginning of the year. But they talk about this month's goals, 5 milestones for the week, and they break everything down. As a primary struggle I want to overcome this week, I will do it by 1 and 2. And then, disciplines.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So what is it called again?
It's called Define My Day.
Define My Day.
And I got like 3 okay, so it's www.definemyday.com. And I use these all when I was in Boise quite a bit.
Yeah.
And what it does is you look at a week, but then when it comes to the day, they have, back to my point, here's the to-do list, which are I want to bake a pie. I'm going to get to chapter 15 on my book, whatever, right? It isn't critical that they get done, but then you have to prioritize. For this day, I have 3 priorities, no more than 3. And then what 3 tasks to finish those. And then they just have little things. It's kind of like journaling.
Yeah.
What did I appreciate about today? What I'm going to appreciate, what I'm going to avoid, what I'm going to enjoy. And then at the end, what's the theme, and then some little notes. And this worked very, very well for me. And then you flip it and it says, review my day. You can do a little journal. What can I do to improve? But it's not a lot. And it's a very concise, organized way to do it. And they do for each one. So this is 27, it's a month. And so it will start it goes by month, by week, by day. And you can buy these little notebooks. They're cute in different colors.
Yeah, very cute. And the one notebook is a month. Yeah.
Yes. And let me relook.
I would probably modify mine to make one notebook a year. Just knowing me.
Right. Yeah, because it's days. And then the back they have, oh my gosh, this is too funny. I did this.
Even like my tracker, it's a week in theory, but sometimes it'll go 2 weeks. Because if I'm not, usually because I like to scribble. So I write all my jotting notes down, and then if it's not full, I'll just keep it going for another week.
And I'll probably start these again. Maybe that I was being frugal, but I do like Sugar Boo. Oh, my dog is just over here sniffing me away. There's a quote company that I love. They're labeled each day. It's called sugarboo.com. And I use a lot of their paper products. I'm a paper girl. I like to write cards. I like notes, and I do like notebooks. So I like those notebooks with the My Intent, but I like my little quote sheets, and it sits here and it stares at me. And I'll actually sometimes things change during the day. Somebody calls with an emergency and I tend to scribble on them, and I like to highlight when I'm done. Right now, because it's Christmas, red, green highlighter. I like a little organizational process.
That's funny. I know somebody else who highlights when she's done with stuff instead of marking it off. Because she's like, I'm celebrating it with a highlighter instead of canceling it out. I was like, that's a really great way to look at it. Look at you with all your highlights. Nice.
This is all the tasky stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it says my laundry list and brilliant ideas, which make me laugh. And you can, back to this is that Sugar Boo. You can check on the side. And I know my light's bad. You can check on the side, but then I always highlight. And then here's my little daily, and here highlighted.
Look at you. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Nice.
And I already took the quote off the bottom because I put the quotes in, I save all the quotes and I include them in cards that I write that I think fit with people. And I also put them in my books that I donate to the little libraries.
Nice. How
Some
fun.
things never
Little
change.
treasures.
Oh gosh. How Sandy behaved in the 1970s is still the case in the 2020s.
And you know what? That's okay. That's a good thing.
That's part of everybody, routines, how you get things done, how you look at things. Everybody has a different way to analyze it. Garrett likes to talk it out, like he's very organized and he keeps a list, but how he looks at things and analyzes them. I like to write things down, or like what you said is do a sheet and look at it. He likes to talk it out. That's
Yeah.
kind of his way of doing it. Yeah, but he is very much, I'm going to go back to, not back to, we've talked about these before, but Clifton's strengths. He's very high in execution. So he is if he will put many things on his list. He wants a clean email inbox when he goes to bed at night, whether they're important or not. Okay.
Right.
He has to watch the prioritization because he has a high sense of responsibility, which is another top. That's his number one, I think, with Clifton's strengths.
Oh,
But
wow.
then it's about the organized and execution, where if he put something on his list and he committed to it, he's going to get it done. So he tends to wear himself out because
Yeah.
he's working very hard and diligently to get things done. And the reminder to him is, just because it hits the list, first of all, who's putting it on the list, right?
Right. Right. Is it his priority or is it
Is
someone
somebody
else's?
else's because they
Yeah.
said it's a fire, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's a struggle for responsibility people. Like
Mhm.
they want to they feel responsible for everything. I want to do it all.
And then very task driven too, to
Right.
say that inbox, oh, I can go to bed with emails in my inbox, no problem, And
I
listen,
know.
how did
Yeah.
if I told Garrett I couldn't sleep last night, he'd be like, what are you thinking about? I'm like, I think about sleeping. Like, why am I not sleeping? Whereas what keeps him up is he worries and thinks about what he didn't get done. And I'm like, oh, that would
Oh,
never keep me up.
yeah.
I don't mean I lack
Yeah.
responsibility. I can like push it away
Right.
and
Right.
then
Right. Right.
open it up again the next morning. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. I'm thinking about why I'm not sleeping. That's what I'm thinking.
That's funny. There are times when things to do will keep me awake. Like if there's something urgent, really urgent, and I was like, oh, I need to take care of this little thing. But I'm kind of like you. Other than that, I can set that stuff aside. No problem at all.
Amy, isn't it interesting? And I know we'll go back to the research, but how, if everybody thought back like 20 years ago, take some time period, I think 20 years, 10 years, and
Yeah.
think about what your daily habit was at that point versus today, how you were so set in that habit and routine and how it changed drastically. To me, that's such a stark reminder of how we are creatures of habit, and routine brings us comfort, and how we can feel like that's the only way life can go for us, and find that it can be completely different. I think for us that would be our routines when we were in the middle of very, very busy kids in school, and our routines went around them. And
Right.
I would tell you my stamina is, whether it's a lot different, I think I could probably do it again, but I laugh every morning. My routine is to read in the morning and to drink my coffee and to really not look at my phone. I mean, I call it my processing time. Amy, when did I have processing time 10 years ago?
Right. Right.
I would have
Yeah.
called myself lazy 10 years ago. Like, well, she does what?
Right.
You know, my
Right.
future self,
Right.
she's not up at running at 5:15 in the morning, and she is not running. Well, she's wasting time. What? She sits in bed and drinks coffee until 8:30 in the
Right.
morning reading.
I know. I remember hearing people, it sounded so luxurious and being like, wow, to be able to do that. And now it's like, okay, I'm now at that time that I get to do that. So part one of the articles that I read, it was like trying to figure out how to make goals easier to do. And so one of them, there's like 4 quick tips that we'll do really fast before we break for questions. The first one is find your purpose. Find your purpose. So that's the key, but avoid focusing on the specific outcome. So, if you want to lose weight, like why? What's the purpose of it? It's not
Why?
just like a number. Like,
Start with the why, not the what. Always.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that before, haven't we? With
But,
everything.
thinking
It
about it with
seems like
habits
that's
and
like
routine.
everything.
But I think about it with habits, people focus on the what.
Yeah.
I'm going to have I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to keep a clean house. I'm going to, um, I'm going to read the encyclopedia from the first to the last. Well, why?
Right. Why? Yeah.
Why? And you're going to
Yeah.
get back to your value set. You're going to get back, which gets you back to your purpose.
Right.
And eventually you'll get to your North Star, which is your word. Mm.
There you go. I love it. Okay, so number 2, break your goal into components and set realistic and achievable process goals. So, this is like breaking it into smaller pieces instead of going full on. So one of yours was, I want to have a cleaner house. So let's talk about that. Do we approach it whole house, or do we go room by room and
Mhm.
start getting it set up so it's easier to maintain?
Mhm.
you know, Stuff like that.
And how do you
So,
define clean? Does that mean
and
less
define it.
piles around? Does that mean I want my floor scrubbed more often because my dog, well, what does that mean?
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. This one, it talks about losing weight. And so they were talking about, okay, I intend to do 30 minutes, 4 days a week of exercise. I intend to eat 3 plant-based meals each week. So it's kind of breaking it into components of, these are the few things, like I'm going to eat less carbs,
Right.
so it's just kind of, that's one of the components. All right. Next, it says make a public commitment, which this kind of goes with your word, because once you have a word, it's kind of, and even if you do one of those bracelets or anything, that's kind of a commitment. But also it's finding people. The fourth one is finding like-minded people who are supporting that goal. So if you're on a journey of some kind to stop smoking, to lose weight, to be more organized, you can find groups of people who are trying to do the same type of stuff,
Mhm.
and have some help.
That makes a ton of sense. Accountability partner.
Yes, accountability partnering. Very good. All right, let's take a quick break and then we will come back for questions. Okay, questions. We got a couple questions. The first question is, what is the best way to track goals or habits? Okay, we've kind of talked some about this. We're both writers. Do you do anything digital? Because I know there's apps.
I don't. If it's digital, it's a blog, it's typically something I'm actually going to publish. And then, back to being a paper girl, I've got, I've got my little leave something to the imagination. I've got different journals.
Look at you. You've got all sorts of journals.
I do. And then I've got the pen I bought at the paper store, and I like special pens too. But I like writing down those types of things. And I did keep a gratitude journal all through, along with my Advent calendar through Christmas. So, but no, digitally, I know there are a lot of good things out there. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of apps. Like one of them I know is Momentum Habit Tracker, and I haven't used these, so I don't know. And there's lots of opportunity to set up recurring things on task management, like Todoist. You can set up a task and it recurs every day or however often you want it to recur. So you can do that. But I think like this momentum habit tracker, what I've heard about it is it kind of gives you a streak. They talk about social media, and Snapchat has these streaks, and it's really popular to keep, it's like gamifies it.
right.
And so I think that's part of some of these digital habit trackers. So if you're into making things a game, then sometimes the apps can be helpful.
I think the apps, I think doing an app, even for a few days, I think it's a great exercise for everyone to do, to track their time and look at it, because too often we get into bad routines that we don't even realize it, and seeing it on paper, and really what we think and what it is aren't always the same when it comes to data. And
Right.
I would say, before we talked about social dilemma, I remember saying to Garrett, well, I'm not on my phone that much. She's like, are you kidding me? We don't watch a movie at home and you're looking on your phone. You can't sit back for 2 hours. And he kind of challenged me on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't go back to a digital app, but I think my reality was different than the real reality. And it's good to see that on paper and say, okay, I'm good with that. Here's what I want to tweak it. But data is good. And it's good to challenge
It's good.
yourself with real.
And even like you're even prompting me to go back and look at my data on my usage and going for that 1% less. I
Right.
mean, just thinking over a period of time, if I do 1% less every day, or, well, I don't know if you can do it every day, but anyway, just be better and be trying to make slow improvements, then it's going to just dwindle down.
And who are you saying yes to that's taking your time, that you feel like it's a commitment, back to the responsibility, and you keep doing
Right.
it? You need to sever yourself from that, or say, you know what,
Right.
I don't have time to do this. Have you gotten on too many boards? Are you in charge of the
Yeah.
neighborhood? If you see things like that taking your time, and even though they're an obligation, how can you unwind that and pass it on to the next person? Because I do find that people, and I bet you find that a lot with people that don't have time to do the things that they want to do.
Yeah. They're doing
Because
things that,
they
yeah.
said yes to too many other things, and they've got to
Yeah.
say no to something.
Yes. And so to habit tracking too, so you can do it by paper, you can do it with an app on your calendar, you can do it. I have actually seen people use Post-its too. So on the wall, they have their days of the week and they have their Post-its of the things that their habits that they want to do. You can kind of use whatever is appealing to you. I saw somebody, she wrote it on her mirror, like in lipstick. It was like her checklist for every morning. And I was like, okay, that's fun. It's like, these are the 4 things I need to do every morning.
Right. Love.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that one time. I'm just going to tell you a mirror story. Do you remember your dreams in
Sometimes.
the morning when you wake up?
Sometimes.
So I read somewhere to put a Post-it on your mirror or the first place that you go to in the morning. And it says, what did I dream about? So you just start asking yourself first thing in the morning, what did I dream about? And it doesn't, it takes like a week or two, but then one time you'll do it and you'll be like, oh, I remember my dreams. And then you just keep doing it and it prompts you to start remembering your dreams.
Really?
Isn't that
Okay. I'm gonna
interesting?
do that.
Give it a try.
Okay.
I haven't done it in a while, but I remember I did it a while back and I was like remembering all my dreams, and now I don't as much, but I need to start doing it again because I remember,
They go so quickly. Like I know I'll remember. I know I remember my dream this morning, but I can't remember what it was. But it was real.
right.
My morning. So if I had
Yeah.
those Post-it notes right next to my bed, I could write it down right away.
Right, right. And even if you just consciously think it, then you're like, oh, there it is. I got my dream. Yeah.
I
So
like
anyway, that's kind of fun. So doing anything like that just to prompt yourself to habits, goals, and yeah, it's helpful. All right, final discussion question. What's the real in these situations and what's the ideal?
Well, the real is we do have habits and routines we get into, good, bad, and other.
Yeah.
Humans are creatures of habit. That is real.
Yep.
Even those that are spontaneous, they still have their habits. And habits form us, and we have to be aware of them in order for us to make decisions on intentionality and what we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to say the other real is everybody's going through something similar.
Mhm.
I don't know that there's anybody out there who's having an original struggle. Like, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like there's other people out there trying to do the same thing you're trying to do
right.
and finding that
Right.
connection. Yeah. So don't be too hard on yourself. Okay, so what's the ideal? I am loving this 1%, just trying to be 1% better. And just, veering, because to me, 1% feels so attainable, and just trying to be just a little bit better than I was yesterday.
I love the 1%. I think that's great. I think the other thing I'd add to that is the word intentional, meaning I think habits and routines can take over people's lives, the hamster wheel, and they just keep doing them. And then it's 5 years later and it's like, I don't really know what I did, or
Right, right,
back
right, right.
to the
Right.
value and the word, they never really thought about it. They just kept
Yeah.
doing what they were doing. And intentionality be intentional that you're either good with it and say, this is exactly what I want. I'm very happy with this. or make those 1% adjustments to change it. But know that, don't just write it,
Yeah.
because your habits and routines can run you. And a lot of times they came upon you from outside people. If they're not intentional, somebody else threw them on you some way, somehow. And you just
Right.
doing your same thing day in and day out.
Or they're just a habit.
Right.
You know, it's not, I'm not intentional about it, but it's just a habit of I'm
A lot
bored.
of people
I'm
I've done.
gonna, yeah, I'm just gonna pick up my phone and go through social media because I'm bored. It's
Right.
just a habit.
Right.
It's nothing, it's not intentional. I love that idea of being more intentional. Yeah, I think that's good. All right. So, wrap question for the day is hopes and dreams for 2021. Since we're kind of like we're coming into the new year. It's so exciting. I don't think I've ever been this excited for a new year.
You know what? Probably not. There's a lot of attention on it. I don't know. I'm happy. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy. More grateful than I've ever been before. I don't expect everything to change overnight, but yeah, I'm with you, Amy. It's exciting. Um, the reflection is something, isn't it? Just who would have, I'm getting ready to draft my Christmas letter for the year. And
Uh-huh.
I keep getting back to the opening phrase comes from, the quote from John Lennon: "His life is what happens when you're busy making other plans." And I think everybody can say that at the beginning of 2020, we were busy making other plans. And I don't think anybody planned what they got. And that's life happening.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I do think 2020 was a bit of a gift because it did make a lot of people, me, I don't know about everybody, but it did make me reflect, appreciate, and just be a little bit more focused on my immediate family and just spending time with them and having good conversations. And yeah, which was good. Hopes and dreams for 2021. So I'm really looking forward to traveling. I like 2019
Mhm.
was a great year for me for traveling. I'm just going to say it was a fabulous year. We did lots of really good trips, and 2020 I didn't. We did one over Christmas, but we were home before New Year's. So then I had some work trips January and February, but then haven't done much of anything. So I'm really looking forward to being able to do some fun trips, see
I
the
think
world.
my hopes and dreams are having quality time with my immediate family. And
Yeah.
whether we're building, a lot of times it's not just hanging out,
Yeah.
there are projects we're working on together. I've got some close family members that are starting a new business. It's really having quality time with them, either on endeavors, family projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably my big thing, that we get to the end of the year and say, wow, we got a lot accomplished together. Um,
Yeah.
I've got kids that have hopes and dreams of different things that they want to do, and to be there to be their advocate and their mentor,
Right.
not doing
Oh,
it
yeah.
for them, but they've got things going on. And so, yeah, let's let loose, people. Let's have some fun.
I know we've got 2 graduations in May, so I'm a little like hoping and dreaming that we can have some celebrations around that.
Right. Nice.
I know. It's
Nice.
kind of fun.
And let me think. So actually, I think this podcast will come out on New Year's Eve, right? Or the day before New Year's Eve, right around New Year's,
New
right?
Year's Eve. It's New Year's Eve. Yeah.
It's New Year's Eve. Okay.
Yeah, on Thursday.
I'm
Yeah.
so confused. I thought today, the day after Christmas, I thought I had an extra day. I thought there was that. I was thinking Christmas was on Thursday, and I get my days confused. And then I had a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I was a little disappointed to find out that Christmas was Friday and I lost a day, but that's okay.
You lost a day. I lost a weekend day.
Whoops.
That's funny. That's good. All right. Well, this was a great conversation. And I just hoping that I can set some reasonable goals for the year and do better on my habits. And I'm really going to go for that 1% this year.
I am going for it too. Going to be intentional. And Amy, my closing word to you is, if you come up with your 90-day word, tell me. And I got my little hammer and my bracelet set, and I'll send it to you.
I'm gonna be very intentional about coming up with my word before our next podcast. How's that?
Okay, we got it.
All right.
All right, goodbye,
Thank you.
everyone.